This is a 13 Weather Impact Alert.
Well, good evening and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Lauren Baker, joined by meteorologist Colton Woods. We're still tracking these snowy conditions. We want to do a little bit extra so people have a little bit more knowledge of what we can expect this weekend. First, we want to start with a look at the road conditions right now. Our weather chaser is traveling on eastbound I-96. You can see the wind, well, the snow is coming down. Not too hard. The roads don't look horrible out there, but also not great. You can see how dark it is as well, which is always a precaution when driving in conditions like this to drive slow. We're driving at about 45 miles per hour just because of those conditions. And while it may not look as bad, we also know that ice and slippery conditions can pop up anywhere. So if you are traveling tonight, please be careful. Let's turn things over to meteorologist Colton Woods. Colton, you've been tracking this system for almost a week now.
Yeah.
Kind of walk us through, what are you seeing right now?
Yeah, so right now we have multiple rounds of lake effect snow. This first one won't be as impactful as tomorrow into Mondays, but still this one is starting to really ramp up across West Michigan right now. Even along the lakeshore in Muskegon, that's where we're really starting to see the heaviest of it. Muskegon, Kent, Ottawa counties, that's where we're probably going to see the highest totals out of this. Widespread, I would say 2 to 4 inches across much of West Michigan through just tomorrow at noon. Locally, though, we could see higher amounts approach 5, maybe even 6 inches in some very isolated spots. But you can tell it's pretty snowy along the lakeshore. Not only is it snowy, it's also pretty cold. The wind chill is down to 6 degrees right now with an actual air temperature of 20. So when you start to get this cold, salt is a little bit less effective, I should say. So do keep in mind some slick roads are pretty likely. Live Look and Walker, it's also pretty snowy there. A lot of traffic is moving slower than average, I would say. An actual air temperature of 16, but when you factor in the wind, it is feeling almost like the goose egg. Visibility also just above 2 miles. We do have that 13 weather impact alert. This is a continuous one for not only the snow, but also the cold. Really starting now, lasting until Tuesday morning. Multiple rounds of lake effect snow will be expected, even locally heavy events. And I do think the worst of the conditions will arrive tomorrow evening, Sunday evening, continuing through much of the day on Monday, likely somewhat improving as we head into Monday night though. Frigid air though will strengthen Monday afternoon, continuing into Tuesday morning, where wind chills could get as low as possibly -15 to maybe -20, some very isolated spots. So it will be very cold heading into Tuesday morning. I expect a lot of school closures Monday and Tuesday as well across much of the area. Winter alerts, we do have a winter weather advisory in effect right now through Sunday morning. This is for the current lake effect system that we have currently ongoing across West Michigan. Mainly areas along and to the west of US 131 are seeing that winter weather advisory, with the worst of it probably being in Muskegon, Kent, and Ottawa. And then beyond that, we have a winter storm watch, I should say, that begins Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. and that continues pretty much all day on Monday. That one expires Monday at 7 p.m. So that's the heavier lake effect system that will likely move in thanks to an Alberta clipper that will likely reinforce not only the cold but also the snow. Right now you can see the snow is getting flared up as that clipper, the first one at least, approaches West Michigan. We have what we call a surface trough approaching West Michigan. So I can zoom up toward Traverse City. This is where that surface trough actually is. You can see it's actually snowing pretty heavily over Traverse City right now and much of the northern lower peninsula of Michigan. You can see that wind shift as well. Winds south of Traverse City are coming out of the southwest. Winds north of Traverse City are coming out of the north. So as this slowly creeps down to the south, I'm expecting at least a heavier snow band to set up really along the lakeshore, and that could actually park itself close to Muskegon County by the time we get to tomorrow morning. So do expect locally higher amounts, possibly in excess of 4 to maybe upwards of 6 inches just by the time we get to the early afternoon hours tomorrow. But zooming in on home, you can see the heaviest lake effect is really centered along I-96. So Allendale up toward Marne, that's where we're seeing the heaviest snowfall rates. But this is kind of the theme all across West Michigan, especially north of Allegan, thanks to that west-southwest wind. And even areas where it doesn't look like it's snowing, Ludington, Hart, it doesn't look like it's snowing at all. However, it is snowing because what happens here is the radar is actually overshooting the lake effect snow. Because lake effect snow, unlike thunderstorms, it is very shallow, meaning it doesn't really reach that high in the sky. So it is still snowing up toward Hart and Ludington as well. Temperature-wise, most of us are in the teens, if not the lower 20s, 20 in Muskegon, 16 in Grand Rapids, and 13 in Battle Creek. So even colder down to the south as that colder air is actually wrapping around Lake Michigan. Wind speeds are also pretty breezy, especially closer to the lakeshore. South Haven, you're currently gusting upwards of 30 miles per hour, 23 here in Grand Rapids, and 25 in Muskegon. So that is only worsening the visibility aspect of the system. 12-hour temperature trend shows, believe it or not, we'll actually warm overnight because of that southwest flow, and we'll hold on to lake effect snow showers pretty much all night long, especially in Muskegon, Kent, and Ottawa counties. Rounds of lake effect snow will continue even heading into tomorrow night. That will be the worst of the lake effect snow, at least during the short term of the forecast. And very cold temps are expected Monday into Tuesday. We'll have single-digit temperatures, and it will feel well below zero. And the rest of January looks pretty wintry as well. And we'll time all this out coming up in a little bit, but for now, back to you, Lauren.
I do want to have a quick question before we look at the road conditions. When we see systems like these, there's so much coming out at us. What do you think is kind of like the biggest thing people should watch out for?
I would say the visibility and just the slick roads in general. With lake effect snow, I mean, you can talk about within 1 mile stretch, it could be okay visibility, and then all of a sudden you can hit whiteout conditions. I mean, on my way in to work earlier this afternoon, I was driving in clear visibility, and all of a sudden I just hit a whiteout, and it can change pretty rapidly. So I'd say that's the biggest thing with this lake effect system, even heading into Monday morning.
Well, speaking of visibility, you want to take a look at the roads. 13 on your side's Peter Elliott is actually live right now on I-96. He's been tracking the roads for the last hour. Peter, what are you seeing right now?
Hey, Lauren and Colton. Thankfully, we are seeing the roads, but visibility still has been a little bit of a challenge tonight, especially when some cars and trucks have flown way too fast past us here. We are going about 45 miles per hour eastbound. We are just around Coopersville on I-96. And if you can stay home, you probably should. It's not great to drive in these conditions right now. Take a look at our camera mounted to our windshield. The good thing is that it's not too windy out here, so we are not getting blown around too much, but it is certainly worse on the local roads, and you really can't go slow enough on some of those on and off ramps. That is where we really saw some challenge. They were sliding around. Lauren, like you mentioned, of course, and Colton, there have been some reports of slide-offs and crashes around our area, a few involving semi-trucks. And we talked with Jerry Byrne of the Kent County Road Commission. He says his crews have seen a lot of drivers who have really just been going too fast for these conditions.
But what I've seen on the road today are people really driving beyond what the conditions allow. They were slippery, there's no doubt about that. But when the speeds go up, you can tell because how far they're off the road. When you go by and you can see they're 100 foot off the road.
Another interesting thing that Jerry Byrne said was that because it's the weekend, there are actually fewer cars on the roads, but that actually encourages people to go a little faster, causing some of those crashes. And right now you can see one of the cars going a little faster in the left lane. As always, he says you should stay back from those county plow trucks that the Road Commission has. The new law in the state of Michigan says that you have to stay at least 200 feet back from those plows on the highways, 20 feet back at intersections, or else you could risk getting a $100 ticket. The other big message here from Jerry Byrne was that over the next few days, when the weather is really the way it is, the temperature is so cold, the snow, you can't expect to get to your destination in the same amount of time that you expect to get there. So build in that time at home and take it slower on the roads, because you will not be able to make up that time back once you are on the roads. For now, we're live just outside of Coopersville on I-196 eastbound. I'm Peter Elliott, 13 on your side. Back to you, Colton and Lauren.
And like Peter just mentioned, there were a number of accidents and slide-offs. Just to kind of recap of what we've seen so far, Ottawa County Sheriff's Office says that portions of eastbound and westbound I-96, 196 rather, were closed for several hours while crews were working to clear crash scenes. Around 1 a.m. this morning, deputies responded to numerous slide-offs also on I-196. And also MSP is also urging people to drive safely as well. They said that this morning, they posted on X that they responded to 2 crashes near M6 in East Paris, and then a crash on northbound US 131 near Post Drive, and a semi-truck that had actually crashed into the guardrails of I-96 in Whitneyville. They're just telling people to slow down and be cautious, just because, these conditions can create some very slick situations outside. Officials are also asking people to be proactive about being warm. These temperatures can lead to hypothermia, frostbite, just very not great conditions for your health. So if you have to go outside, make sure to cover yourself. Don't be outside for too long. Wear your hats, gloves, thick coats, jackets, layer up. And then if you know someone or you see someone who may show signs of hypothermia or frostbite, make sure to call 911 as soon as possible and get them inside. Now I want to talk about the snow that we're seeing. Sometimes we see that kind of wet snow that sticks to the ground. Sometimes we get the fluffy stuff. What are we seeing with this system?
This is definitely more fluffy right now. I mean, last night, Lauren, it was insane. I was on Bridge Street in downtown Grand Rapids, and it was like a snow globe. The snowflakes were ping pong ball size.
Wow.
They were giant. They were like literally sticking to my winter coat.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy. So that was like really wet snow because temperatures were hovering closer to freezing.
Yeah.
But now temperatures are in the teens, so when you're colder, that's when you start to get more fluffy snow. So that's the trend that we will probably be seeing over the really rest of January as temperatures will trend more colder than 32. And I wouldn't be shocked if we don't even hit 32 degrees the rest of this month.
Wow, really?
So,
Oh my gosh, it's going to be cold outside.
It's going to be cold. We passed this week, the following week might even be colder. So
Really?
yeah, it's going to get cold across West Michigan.
Now I got to ask about the wind because us Midwesterners, we always say, if we don't have the wind, it's great outside.
Exactly,
You know?
especially if it's sunny.
Right,
Which it won't
exactly.
be,
A
but-
32 with no wind and sun, not too bad. Is that the case for us this week, or we got wind
It
too?
looks pretty breezy, especially on Monday. Monday, it probably looks more so windy across the area, especially along the lakeshore. I wouldn't be shocked if we had wind gusts exceed just over 40 miles per hour, so that will also just make it feel colder, feeling well below zero, and on top of that, you're seeing the blowing and drifting snow. So the wind will not be our friend over the coming days.
So it's going to be
for sure.
very cold outside. And when you mention that, I do want to let people know that Mel Trotters Ministries is in a code blue right now. So what that means is that they are working overtime to make sure people who are struggling with homelessness or have a place to stay, they're expected to take in over 600 people this week, just to make sure that everyone is safe and sound. And they're going to continue that until those temperatures rise to a more comfortable situation, but it sounds like that might not be for a while.
It probably won't be until the end, possibly even next week. So
Wow, okay.
we have a while until we really start to warm things up. So get used to the winter weather. If you're a fan of winter activities like going sledding, skiing, at least that will be good.
Yeah.
I mean, it will be a little cold to do it, I think, but I mean,
Yeah.
the businesses definitely will be looking forward to at least
Yeah.
that winter weather returning. But right now in Grand Rapids, it is snowy. You can see we got some plow trucks out there, so roads are being treated right now. Visibility down to 2.5 miles in downtown Grand Rapids. It looks like many cars are going slower than typical as well. Muskegon, it's also pretty snowy there. Air temperature of 20 degrees, but the wind chill, when you factor in the wind, which is sustained at 15 miles per hour, it is feeling more like the single digits out there. Visibility just over a mile in Muskegon. Temperatures area-wide not looking too hot, that's for sure. Most of us are sitting in the teens. 13 is a cold spot in Battle Creek, 16 in Grand Rapids, 20 in Muskegon, and the warm spot actually off to the north, Ludington at 23. Winds are also somewhat of a concern, at least we're seeing breezy conditions, which is allowing for reduced visibility and also that blowing and drifting snow, creating even slicker roads out there. Right now we're guessing upwards of 30 miles per hour in South Haven, 24 in Kalamazoo, and 23 right now in Grand Rapids. Winds will somewhat relax overnight tonight, but they will still at times be breezy, especially closer to the lakeshore. And by the time we get to Sunday, notice the wind kind of shifts more out of the west. So this evening we're seeing the winds out of the southwest, meaning the lake effect snow is the worst in Ottawa, Muskegon, and Kent counties. And then as we head into Sunday, it will shift more to the west. So that just means basically everyone across West Michigan, and especially along the lakeshore, will be seeing those heavier snow belts. And then on Monday, this is when the Arctic air moves in. You can see those temperatures are beginning to slide through the teens. The wind is beginning to pick up. It's now out of the northwest on Monday. So that's when the stronger wind is expected, and those snow belts will be a little bit heavier just to the southwest of Grand Rapids. We have a continuous 13 weather impact alert. Half of our 7-day is red because of the snow and cold. Rounds of lake effect snow are expected. Really the worst of the rounds, I would say, will be this time tomorrow, continuing into much of Monday. That's when the core of the Arctic air begins to move on in. So give yourself plenty of extra travel time on Monday and also possibly even Tuesday morning, really beginning tomorrow evening. be mindful of the cold, especially late in the day on Monday, continuing into Tuesday morning, where some areas could feel like negative 15 degrees out there. Winter alerts, we do have a winter weather advisory, which begins now, really, and that continues until 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. This is for the current lake effect system that we have ongoing across West Michigan. So this really is for areas along and to the west of US 131, includes the lakeshore, which will probably see the worst of this, especially in Muskegon, Grand Rapids, and Howland. So here's the big picture. Right now we have lake effect snow on a west-southwest wind. So what that means is the wind is actually coming out of the west-southwest, so areas along the lakeshore, especially up toward Muskegon, that's where we're seeing some of the heavier snowfall rates. So the wind is kind of coming out of this direction. So that means Grand Rapids, Howland, up toward Muskegon, seeing the brunt of the lake effect snow, and that is pretty typical for a southwest wind. Now, what's interesting is we do have some heavier snow to the north of us. This is currently over Traverse City. So what this is a surface trough, or just kind of a change in wind direction, to put it more easily. You can see that heavier snow is beginning to at least shift further down to the south. If I put this in motion, it's slowly moving to the south. So with due time, that will likely approach US 10 later tonight, and then eventually I-96. And what might happen here is it will stall closer to I-96. So if that does occur, we could see some locally heavier totals, especially over Muskegon, Grand Rapids, and possibly even northern Ottawa County. So do keep in mind, conditions might get a little treacherous late tonight as that surface trough approaches us from the north. But zooming in on West Michigan and turning on our high definition radar, you can really start to see where those heavier bands are setting up, really over the heart of Allendale, Marne. That's where we're seeing some locally heavier snow showers, possibly upwards of half an inch to maybe an inch per hour snowfall rates in some localized spots. Over in Muskegon, also snowing moderate to even heavily. And then going into Kent County, just to the northwest of Grand Rapids, that's where we're seeing the heaviest of it, but it's still snowing moderately in Grand Rapids and even down toward Allegan County as well. Now, one thing I do want to mention is it's not snowing really down toward Kalamazoo and Jackson because we're on a west-southwest wind. However, whenever you have a west-southwest wind, that does mean Hart and Ludington are seeing snow. But I don't want to fool you. It looks like it's not snowing up there. However, it is definitely snowing, and we can verify that by visibility from airports. What basically happens here is the radar is centered at the Grand Rapids International Airport. So what happens is when you get further past Muskegon toward Hart and Ludington, the radar beam actually gets higher in the sky. So it's overshooting the lake effect snow. So it's basically just not seeing the lake effect snow since the radar beam is actually higher than the snow itself. So do keep in mind, even though it doesn't look like it's snowing in Ludington and Hart, it definitely is snowing. Hour by hour shows that lake effect snow will continue this evening on a west-southwest wind. So like I mentioned, Battle Creek, even over toward Kalamazoo, probably not really seeing a whole lot in the way of snow. But you can see up toward Ludington by 9 p.m., that is that surface trough feature that I was mentioning. As that continues to shift down to the south, likely approaching Muskegon, the I-96 corridor, as we get toward 3 a.m. So we could probably see a heavier burst of snow, and that might just stall around Muskegon, Ottawa, Kent counties, even into Newaygo County by the time we get to the daybreak hour tomorrow. So do expect a locally or higher snowfall amounts in those regions that I just mentioned. And then by 4 p.m., that is when our next system arrives. But in the early afternoon hours, if you have any travel plans, I would say get out in the early afternoon. That's probably the best window to do any travel or any errands, especially as we wrap up the weekend. But this is how much snow we're expecting now through Sunday at 3 p.m. So before the next system arrives, generally a widespread 2 to 4 inches is pretty likely, especially north of Kalamazoo and to the west of US 131. So Muskegon, Howland, Grand Rapids, up toward Ludington, Fremont, that's where we're expecting the heaviest amounts. And like I mentioned, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw locally heavier amounts, upwards of 5, maybe 6 inches over portions of Muskegon and even into Kent and Ottawa counties as that surface trough moves in from the north. Now, if you thought winter was done, it's not done, unfortunately. We have a lot more winter to go. We have another system, and because of that, the National Weather Service has already put out winter storm watches for the entirety of the lakeshore. This begins when this current system ends. So you can see Sunday at 4 p.m., that's when the watch goes into effect. I imagine they will be upgrading this to a winter storm warning either tonight or tomorrow morning. And then this will continue pretty much all day on Monday. So Monday by 7 p.m., that's when this expires. So picking things back up at 4 p.m. on Sunday, continuing into 7 p.m. on Sunday, you can see that snow is really starting to flare up. This is kind of similar to the one that we're seeing right now, but I think it'll be a little worse as the ingredients just look better as we have a clipper system moving through. And then this is Monday, early Monday morning at 1 a.m. What will happen here is the winds were out of the southwest Sunday evening. They'll begin to shift more out of the west-northwest or just plainly out of the northwest as that Arctic cold front slides through West Michigan. And then this is Monday morning's commute. It will be pretty treacherous along the lakeshore. Notice the wind speed. It is sustained at 28 miles per hour. So along the lakeshore, expect some wind gusts over 40, allowing for blowing, drifting snow, very low visibility. So I would not be on the roadways if I were you on Monday. So do keep in mind, I mean, a lot of schools are closed on Monday because of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. But do keep in mind, even the schools that are not closed, you probably won't be closed because you'll probably have a snow day. So do keep in mind, take it slow on the roads on Monday. It'll be pretty treacherous if you do have to go in for work or school. The snowfall forecast, this is just Sunday afternoon through Monday evening. So this doesn't even include the snow that we're seeing currently right now. This is for the secondary system that moves in late in the day on Sunday. Widespread, I think 6 to 10 inches of snow looks pretty likely, especially areas along the lakeshore. So really Van Buren County, up along the lakeshore, up toward Mason County. That's where we have that winter storm watch in effect right now, where they could see several inches of additional snow Sunday afternoon through Monday evening. And then less in the way of snow, obviously, as you head further to the east, is typical with lake effect snow. But not only are we going to see the snow, but also the cold air. So it will feel like the single digits pretty much beginning tomorrow afternoon. That continues through Tuesday afternoon, but it will feel below zero late in the day on Monday night into Tuesday morning. So it will be very cold. In some spots will be even colder than -9. It will probably feel like -15, maybe -20 in some very isolated spots.
Wow.
Yeah, especially along the lakeshore where that
Oh, goodness
wind
gracious.
gets even stronger. Yeah, so they'll be even colder because of the wind and also seeing blowing and drifting snow because of the wind. So it's not going to be pretty along the lakeshore. And because of that, we have that winter storm watch in effect beginning tomorrow evening. But everyone, especially along and west of US 131, is in that winter weather advisory. So we have a lot of winter alerts out right now for different systems, so just do keep in mind, simply put, it's going to be snowy and cold over the next few days. Because of that, we have that weather impact alert through Tuesday morning. Very high confidence that we will see travel impacts out of this. That's why we are in red, why we have that impact alert, and expect school closures on Monday if you're not already closed on Monday. And then Tuesday morning, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw even more school closures, not only because of the snow, but also the cold. And look at that 7-day, Lauren, even past the red part. I mean, we have a snow chance every day. So
Wow.
winter's not going anywhere. And Saturday, that's the beginning of possibly even colder air.
Oh,
so
gosh.
yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw single-digit high temperatures come really early next week. So it's going to be cold. It's going to be snowy. But I mean, this part of the year is the coldest part of the year. So
Yeah.
it's not surprising that we're seeing this, but still, it's not going to be fun to drive in
Yeah.
or to be outside in.
I was going to say the big takeaways for everyone watching is just if you have to be on the roads, please drive safely. It's going to be slick out for the next couple of days, unfortunately. If you can, just don't drive at all.
Yeah.
If you have to be outside, make sure to bundle up with multiple layers. Really just try not to have any of your skin exposed and just really be safe out there because we're dealing with a lot of things with this winter storm.
Yeah, lots to track, but hopefully that made more sense because
Yeah.
we had longer time to talk about it than 3 minutes. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Colton, and thank you for joining us. Of course, we'll be tracking this on 13onyourside.com. We'll also be coming back here on the 13 Plus app when we need to update you on anything further. And we'll be tracking road conditions, crashes, anything important in regards to this winter storm. So please keep with us up to date both on air and online.